And this is where they take shots at independent creators. So now you have people searching for hate under the couch cushions to suggest that her own team, her own coach is sabotaging her. This is how it works in Clark World in 2026. Throw something against the wall and the theory that invokes the most rage, that hints most shamelessly at conspiracy and sabotage will likely stick. Kelsey Mitchell's freezing her out. Wait, no, Chrissy Sides is freezing her out. Now Stephanie White is freezing her out. What if the Fever drafted Raven Johnson, a college rival who plays her position just to spite her?
The moment Caitlin Clark became the center of the sports universe, the balance of power around the WNBA changed forever. Not just on the court, not just in television ratings, not just inside arenas packed with fans wearing Indiana Fever jerseys. The real earthquake started in the media ecosystem surrounding Caitlin Clark. And now the old guard of WNBA media appears completely overwhelmed by what they created, because this is no longer just about basketball. This is about control. For years, legacy sports media controlled the narrative around women's basketball. They decided which stories mattered. They decided which controversies were acceptable. They decided which players deserved protection and which players deserved criticism. Then Caitlin Clark arrived, independent YouTubers exploded in popularity, and suddenly thousands of fans stopped waiting for permission to speak. That is the panic hiding underneath this entire meltdown. The backlash against Caitlin Clark did not disappear after her rookie season. It evolved. The physicality debates evolved. The officiating debates evolved. The rivalry conversations involving Angel Reese evolved. The criticism involving Diana Taurasi evolved. But the biggest shift happened when independent creators started documenting every contradiction in real time. And now, those creators are being accused of conspiracy farming simply because fans remember what they watched with their own eyes. That is why this situation feels so explosive. Because the anger directed toward Caitlin Clark is now bleeding into anger toward the audience itself. Fans who questioned injuries, fans who questioned transparency, fans who questioned coaching decisions, fans who questioned why the league's biggest star constantly seemed trapped inside controversy. And the more people try to silence those questions, the louder the entire situation becomes.
None of this is new, of course. Well, the fact of the matter is, none of this stuff was made up. We watched the Indiana Fever parade her around state to state, city to city, arena to arena, and list her as day to day for months on end. That is misleading. Those were lies being told. And then it came out there was an ankle injury that they tried to keep under wraps. And there was a bunch of stuff. So the Indiana Fever have not earned the trust. They've lost the trust of the people.
The distrust surrounding Indiana Fever did not magically appear out of nowhere. That is the part that makes this media backlash so dangerous. Fans are not reacting to fantasy. They are reacting to accumulated frustration that has been building for months. When Caitlin Clark entered the WNBA, she instantly became the financial engine of the league. Road arenas sold out. Television ratings exploded. Merchandise sales skyrocketed. Entire franchises suddenly experienced relevance they had never seen before, but with that growth came microscopic scrutiny. Every injury update involving Caitlin Clark became national news. Every substitution became debate television. Every coaching decision involving Stephanie White became social media warfare. And the Fever created confusion repeatedly. Day-to-day designations, last-minute scratches, unclear communication, fans spending massive amounts of money without certainty that Caitlin Clark would even appear. That matters because Caitlin Clark is not just another player inside this ecosystem. She is the product many fans are specifically paying to see. So when skepticism emerged, it was inevitable. The problem for legacy WNBA media is that independent creators filled the vacuum immediately. Instead of waiting for sanitized reporting, fans went directly to creators who openly questioned timelines, rotations, injuries, and organizational transparency. That completely disrupted the traditional hierarchy. Now suddenly YouTubers are pulling massive view counts discussing Caitlin Clark, while established outlets struggle to generate the same engagement. That changes everything because attention is currency in modern sports media. Whoever controls audience attention controls influence. And that is where the resentment becomes obvious. The criticism is no longer simply about whether Caitlin Clark is being treated fairly. The criticism is now aimed at the people talking about Caitlin Clark. Independent creators became targets because they successfully tapped into fan frustration that mainstream coverage often ignored. The irony is brutal. The more critics accuse fans of inventing conspiracies around Caitlin Clark, the more fans feel dismissed. The more dismissed fans feel, the more they gravitate toward independent creators. And the more those creators grow, the more threatened legacy media becomes. That creates a cycle of escalation that nobody inside the WNBA seems prepared to stop.
Okay, all of this came to a head Friday night before the Fever beat the Valkyries. Clark scored 22 points, hitting 4 threes, 9 assists. But it was her performance before the game that was more noteworthy when she delivered the most blunt, transparent, frustrated press conference of her career. Okay, and it's talking about how, Clark says she knew at 4:47 or whatever, and everybody else found that at 5:20. Okay, and here it says, how does one conduct day-to-day league business under this cloud of suspicion? Dare I say the Caitlin Clark effect is making it hard for Caitlin Clark to operate.
The psychological pressure surrounding Caitlin Clark right now is unlike anything the modern WNBA has ever experienced. Not even close, because previous superstars entered a league environment where media narratives moved slowly. Caitlin Clark entered a digital battlefield where every facial expression becomes viral content within seconds. Every tense interaction becomes a theory. Every awkward press conference becomes a headline war. And the pressure multiplies because Caitlin Clark represents multiple things simultaneously. To some fans, Caitlin Clark symbolizes the future of women's basketball. To critics, Caitlin Clark represents overexposure. To the league office, Caitlin Clark represents economic survival. To independent creators, Caitlin Clark represents the most explosive sports topic on the internet. That amount of projection crushes athletes psychologically. Then add the coaching tension surrounding Stephanie White. Every time Caitlin Clark appears frustrated, fans analyze body language. Every offensive adjustment becomes controversy. Every stagnant offensive possession becomes evidence for somebody's theory. And because Caitlin Clark operates with unprecedented visibility, normal basketball adversity suddenly looks political. That is what makes this media environment so combustible. Previous generations of WNBA stars never dealt with this scale of non-stop digital interpretation. Diana Taurasi played in an era before every clip became algorithm warfare. Sue Bird did not experience millions of people dissecting coaching substitutions frame by frame every night. Caitlin Clark does. And when Caitlin Clark finally delivered one of the most visibly frustrated press conferences of her career, it intensified everything. Fans saw exhaustion. Critics saw paranoia. Independent creators saw confirmation that tension inside the Fever organization was becoming impossible to hide. Meanwhile, the league itself appears trapped between two conflicting realities. The WNBA desperately needs Caitlin Clark's audience growth, but parts of the basketball establishment appear deeply uncomfortable with the power Caitlin Clark's audience now possesses. That discomfort is now spilling directly into media discourse, and it is creating one of the most embarrassing public implosions the league has seen in years.
So you are so butthurt that people are being honest. First of all, nobody made up anything. Nobody made up anything. All of the things that was brought up are things that we watched happen. We watched them parade her around and lie about an injury. So therefore, you can't blame people for being skeptical about if they want to continue to spend their money. You can't blame people for any of these things. It seems like you're jealous that independent creators are getting traction that you are unable to get even with the company behind you.
The financial implications of this Caitlin Clark media war are enormous because this is no longer just about online arguments. This impacts ticket sales. This impacts sponsorship trust. This impacts how casual fans perceive the WNBA. When fans believe transparency is lacking, they hesitate to spend money. When fans believe media outlets are attacking creators instead of addressing legitimate concerns, distrust deepens. And when distrust deepens around Caitlin Clark, the league risks damaging the very audience expansion it worked so hard to achieve. That is why this entire situation feels so reckless. Independent creators discussing Caitlin Clark are not disappearing. In fact, they are growing stronger precisely because audiences feel traditional outlets are becoming defensive instead of informative. And the numbers tell the story: massive view counts, viral clips, endless engagement. The audience surrounding Caitlin Clark behaves more like a global superstar ecosystem than a traditional WNBA fanbase. That changes the rules entirely. Legacy media can no longer control the conversation simply through institutional authority. Fans now choose who they trust. That is terrifying for established platforms because Caitlin Clark coverage became one of the most profitable attention economies in modern sports. Every outlet wants access to that audience. Every creator wants access to that audience. Every debate surrounding Caitlin Clark becomes a competition for relevance. And somewhere inside all of this chaos sits Caitlin Clark herself, trying to simply play basketball while becoming the center of a cultural war she never asked to lead. That may be the wildest part of this entire story. A young superstar entered the league expected to elevate women's basketball. Instead, Caitlin Clark accidentally exposed fractures across media, fandom, league politics, player resentment, and organizational trust all at the same time. Now the WNBA faces a defining question. Can the league evolve alongside Caitlin Clark's unprecedented spotlight? Or will the constant hostility surrounding Caitlin Clark continue pushing fans further away from traditional voices and deeper into independent media ecosystems? Because right now, the old guard does not look in control anymore. They look panicked.